It is live. We are live. I'll give it a second. And then we're going to go to Instagram and tell all our friends there that we are live, which we are. And cool. I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we're cool. I'm going to go here so I want to officially welcome you. I'm delighted that you're here. And we are going to let me just see. Can you actually delete that comment? Okay.
All right, we're doing it.
We're doing it. This has been a trip and a half. I can't even tell you. So for all of my friends who are tuning in, so very, very glad to have you here. I'm very excited because I am interviewing someone who I know is going to become a good friend. She and I are attached at the hip with about 148 other people because of a project that we're doing together. And I'm going to actually start right away by welcoming Rebecca Stoner to the stage. Thank you. And you're coming all the way from?
Adelaide, Australia. So I'm in South Australia, which is like right down bottom of Down Under. And we're actually heading into a heat wave at the moment here. So I've converted the temperature to Fahrenheit. Tomorrow is going to be 104 degrees Fahrenheit in where I am.
I mean, you're not kidding, heat wave. Okay.
Really, really hot.
So today it was about 45 degrees, maybe.
Okay. So that's pretty cool.
Fahrenheit. Yeah, no, it's cold. Yeah. I mean, I had a fleece on all day. I put on my nice scarf for this just to look a little bit nicer. So anyway, I want to start by telling people why we're here and let them know our intentions. So in addition to my being a full-time musician, which I am, I travel around the United States primarily, sometimes Canada, sometimes I've been to England, and I do music for children. But in addition to that, I have a passion, and that is for food, and especially for whole foods that are plant-based. And I have a health coaching certification, and I am crazy about the power of plants. And the more I hear stories like the story you're going to share and others, the more I am even more convinced than I thought I was about the power of plants. So we are both involved in a project called the Vegan Health Bundle, which is 150 different ebooks that are all somehow related to the power of plants and whole food plant-based eating. There are ebooks that are recipe books. There's over 200 total recipes. There are, in addition to that, there are exercise courses through videos. There are doctors who have contributed. I think there's 3 or 4. There's one doctor, Dr. McDougall, who did he has an ebook that's about the gut and how important your gut, your microbiome is. There are raw recipes. There's a whole group of people who follow a raw lifestyle. You name it, it's in this ebook. It's one of the best ebook bundles I've ever seen. And a bundle, for those of you who are confused, a bundle is really simply a collection of recipes. A collection of ebooks. And the collection is always different. Every time there's a bundle, the collection is different, as is this one. And this one not only has 150 ebooks, but there's a bonus recipe book that's a spring recipe book. So it's got recipes for spring, for whatever you think of, for Easter, for Passover, for just spring in general, at least spring in the United States anyway. And the recipes in there are fabulous. I contributed my gluten-free matzah. There's a ton of recipes in there. And what happens is you purchase the bundle, and you immediately get emailed a link, and you download everything onto your hard drive, onto your device, and you get a year to actually do that. So you don't have to download them all at once, although I would recommend that you do that and just get it done. And the value of it is $8,049. We know that because the value was added up for each ebook and then added up. And the cost of the ebook is $49, which is kind of a crazy, really, you're making an investment in your health, basically. And I opened the list. I have a folder of the ebooks, and I can't get over the variety and the expertise that's in each of these, including yours. And everybody's story is unique and different and compelling, including yours. So I'm going to show mine. This is my ebook, 20 Delicious Rise and Shine Morning Oatmeal Recipes from Ellen's Healthy Kitchen. And I'll talk a little bit about my story and how oatmeal contributes to it in a little bit. But before I do that, I really want to formally welcome you and ask you if you would share your story with us and tell us about your reason for being here.
Yeah, sure. So mine's a health journey, obviously, and I almost 9 years ago, in a few months' time, I'll have my 9-month anniversary of being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So yeah, I was really unwell, and everybody's symptoms with MS are different depending on what part of the brain it affects. So basically, it's an autoimmune disease which attacks your own brain. And for me, it was my optic nerve, which is really an extension of the brain. So I had real vision problems. I basically woke up one morning, and it's very typical of MS that you will literally wake up one morning or something will happen during a day. Suddenly, something happens to some part of your body. For a friend of mine, she woke up and she could not get out of bed. Her legs would not move. They were just dead weights. Other people, yeah, they've had vision problems as well. Some people have speech problems. It can affect different parts of your body. So I had lots of sensory issues, couldn't use my fingers very well. I had a son who was 2 at the time, and I thought it was just sleep deprivation. I just thought, oh, I'm so tired. You know, I was breastfeeding, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't exercising. I was eating a standard Australian diet, which is very similar, you know, to a standard American diet, full of dairy, full of animal products, very high saturated fat. And it was a perfect storm. And so that led to my diagnosis. And yeah, I felt awful. You physically feel like you've got the flu, as well as vision, as well as you feel really heavy. And I have a background in science. So I was a scientist for 20 odd years, and I looked into the research. I discovered a program in Australia called Overcoming MS, and it was developed by a medical doctor who has MS. And so he did all the research. He, you know, thought, I don't want my progression to happen really quickly. So he wrote this book. I started on that program, but it did incorporate a little bit of fish and egg whites and olive oil. And I thought, you know what, I can do a little bit better than that. So I found, you know, McDougall and a lot of the other research that showed that a whole food plant-based diet was really the way to go. So I changed my diet literally overnight. It took a little bit of time to tweak, you know, for example, oh, I can't have this deep fried dumpling. Okay, I'll have the steamed one. Or, you know, like there was a little bit of that backwards and forwards. And so what happened once I changed my diet is my vision did resolve. Like I have perfect vision besides wearing glasses. The optic neuritis resolved, and yeah, I feel great now. I feel symptom free. It's there in the background. So if I don't look after myself, it will come back. And I had a chat to Rachel Detroit recently. She also has MS. She's part of the bundle. And she said that for her, it's stress. If you go through a stressful event, you'll get an exacerbation. So I'm very conscious of that as well. But yeah, I had to share this information once I learned it. It was like, why doesn't everybody know this? The MS is very much lifestyle related, like, you know, cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. And I had to share the information. So that's why I do what I do. I started my online presence as Just Eat Plants, and then I do cooking classes with people. I do it online as well. And I also go into school. So you're talking about music for children. I do cooking classes for children, and it's so much fun. I love seeing their faces light up. They see the ingredients and they're like, oh, I don't like this. But then when they taste the finished, maybe it's a chocolate mousse made of sweet potato and dates, or maybe it's a mac and cheese made with vegetables, you know,
Mm-hmm.
They eat it and they're like, this is actually really delicious. So yeah, that's my goal, is to get more people eating.
Yeah. My brain is exploding with questions. I think one of the things I want to ask you is, you mentioned that for some people, stress can be the thing that triggers the symptoms. And can you speak to the idea that stress can show up in different ways with different people? So it's not just, it's not just you're in a car accident. That's certainly is stressful. But what other kinds of stress can trigger your symptoms or one's symptoms?
Yeah. So after I was just diagnosed and my vision started to resolve, I started to feel better and my eyesight was much better. My son, who was 2, maybe he was about 3 by then, he had a massive tantrum. You know, one of those ones on the ground, oh, nothing I could do,
3-year-old
help.
tantrum. Yes.
Yeah, we've all been through that if we've got kids. And it literally, my vision went gray, just like that. Like, because I was feeling stressed that he was upset and I couldn't console him, wasn't angry with him, I just couldn't fix his problem. My stress level was rising and almost instantly my vision went. So that was obviously an acute stress situation. In life, we all have stress. We'll lose loved ones. We'll go through a grieving process. We'll get sick with viruses. That's another thing that can trigger relapses in MS. Lots of different things, but chronic stress is one of those things that, if you've got some stress throughout your life and it's just there all the time, that can also cause problems long term. So part of what I do is a holistic approach. So I do meditate every day. It's just a quick, when I wake up, I listen to something and I have a meditative practice. And then I exercise. So that's really important for the brain. Sleep, super important. Vitamin D is also really, really valuable for people with MS. So there's a whole lot of things that that we do to stay well.
So stress can show up really in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to just be an obvious stressful situation, right?
No.
Yes, that's important to know. And the lifestyle changes too, like you said, the meditation, the exercise, when I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, we learned about all the different things that impact your health. It's not just about food. That certainly is a piece of it, but it's about doing work that you love or volunteering and doing volunteer work that you love. It's about surrounding yourself with people who are supportive. It's about healthy relationships. It's about community. I highly recommend if our listeners haven't watched it yet, there's a fairly recent documentary on Netflix that is the Dan Buettner Focus on the Blue Zones. I'm totally blanking on the name of it, but you can look it up, and it's a series of about, I think, 4 or 6 different shows, and all related. And the basic idea is that he goes around the world and finds, I think it was 6 communities that all are considered part of the blue zones, and they all have very similar, the way they function. They're very similar from one community to the next, even though they're not related. They're in different parts of the world, and it's really fascinating to.
It is. I've watched that one, and I'm always interested in the blue zones. And actually, when you see the map on the documentary, they're all close to the equator, so they're all sort of in a warmer part of the climate of the planet. So for me, I'm in South Australia, so really low. So the incidence of MS is much higher here. And they talk about lots of different reasons. It could be diet related. It could be vitamin D, sun exposure. But incidence of MS around the equator of the planet is much, much lower. So, I always think I've got to retire to a tropical part of the world to get away from here.
Oh, would we love to do that?
Oh, yeah. It's so interesting. But that's a great series. And I recommend it to a lot of people as well. There is a doctor in the US called Saray Stanzik. She has MS. She made a documentary called Code Blue, and you can probably find it on different streaming services. So she talks about her story, and hers is much more dramatic than mine. She had all sorts of mobility issues. She could barely walk. She was on, different walking aids, and she managed to regain her health again through plant-based nutrition. So.
The power of plants, really, just eat plants, as your Instagram name.
I
know. I wanted to mention another file that opened in my brain when you mentioned about the chocolate pudding or mousse made with sweet potatoes. If you had said that to me, 5 years ago, I would have said, yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm not going to eat chocolate mousse. If I'm going to eat chocolate mousse, it's going to be made out of the things that I usually think chocolate mousse should be made out of. But
Yeah.
I've come over to your side, and I make chocolate mousse now with sweet potatoes, with orange sweet potatoes. And they're, of course, disguised because you put enough cacao or cocoa powder or whatever in it. But I'm remembering, I'm not going to name names because I don't want the person who I'm thinking of to be upset with me. But I will just say that someone in my life, I was with someone in my life, and I made our chocolate mousse pudding for their son. And he took like 2 bites out of it. And then he said, he was trying to be so polite. He didn't want to hurt my feelings, but he said, he like whispered loud enough for me to hear, it's not for me. And what that makes me think of is to tell people who are trying to transition to a different way of eating is that your palate has to be given time to adjust. And I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't experienced it myself. I used to be a major chocoholic. I still love chocolate, but I used to be a major dessert eater. And I had a terrible, terrible sweet tooth, and I don't have it anymore. I don't have that crazy craving for sweets all the time. And I believe that that is because I have just eaten plants, and that's what I do. I eat plants.
And it's the gut microbiome. The gut microbiome has totally shifted from what it used to be when you ate that way. And they talk about there's such an amazing integration between our brain and our gut, and they are driving our cravings. So now I crave kale. If I hadn't had enough greens, it's like, oh, I need a big bowl of kale. So it's absolutely fascinating. I was the same. I ate nothing but sweet things. And now if I eat one date, oh, that's just almost too much.
Yeah. Yes, me too. I mean, I'd rather have a half, which is crazy to think of, but yeah. But it does take time, and that's something that you have to give yourself the grace of time to allow your palate to adjust. And
so the transition, that's a really important word. A lot of my recipes, I think of people who are transitioning. So let's say instead of a sweet potato chocolate mousse, because that will have a slight texture, I will do an avocado chocolate mousse. So that'll be, more palatable, more fatty, and that's more what they're used to. So yeah, that transition, people, and also things like salt. If they want to have a little bit more salt on their meals, sure, but maybe cut it back as you become more attuned. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit more about you have 3 ebooks, I think. And as a matter of fact, let me see if I can pull up, at least I can start here. Whoops. This is, I have on my iPad so I can show. This is your plant-based pizzas.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So that's one of them.
Love that one. I've had a lot of people sharing reels and things from the bundle because they've been making the pizza. My family transitioned to a plant-based diet too about 12 months after I did. I couldn't cook for them I could not cook meat anymore. And there's a slight genetic predisposition that my children will develop MS. So I thought, if I can get them on a good start, perhaps, we could avoid that diagnosis. My husband, having a background in science, also thought, you know what, this is the best thing for our family. We need to all be plant-based. So pizza was one thing that everybody loved. And I thought, how can I do it that's tasty? The first time I made like a cashew cheese sauce, they all thought it was disgusting. Like, oh, this is not, this is not right. And now they crave it. And they're like, Mom, please make, this sauce or that sauce. So yeah, I developed these pizzas, and I actually held a cooking class here in Adelaide with a group of people, and we made all of these beautiful plant-based pizzas. And I've got a few different, I've got ideas of, okay, you can build like a Spanish pizza, or you can build one's got like pulled mushroom that resembles pulled pork. But the potato, it's beautiful. But the potato pizza is definitely a winner. There's something about the taste of the rosemary and garlic and potato. And it's got my cashew cheese sauce that you pour basically over the bottom, and then you sprinkle the walnut parmesan, which I think you've made. Yeah.
Yes, I want to share that. Yeah. So which book is this one from?
That's in my Just Eat Plants Volume 1. Volume 2 might be in the next bundle. But yeah, basically I looked for a Parmesan substitute. You can buy them in the shops, like a vegan version, but it's so expensive.
Oh, they're ridiculous. It's so easy to make it at home.
Yeah, it was just whiz it up in the food processor and you've got, and it lasts forever. Put it in the fridge. You know, walnuts are really high in omega-3s, so that's why I incorporated them.
Yep.
And yeah, put in the fridge, lasts for months.
Yeah. Yeah. Another nut that I like to make parm with or plant-based parm is Brazil nuts.
Oh yes. Yeah,
they're really good too. But so all right, so you have your plant-based pizza. I'm looking at the list. You have your Just Eat Plants, and then you have sauces, dips, and dressings. And so you really are a recipe developer.
Yes, and I have developed recipes for a magazine here in Australia called Nourish. So they wanted a contributor who was whole food plant-based. So it's a plant-based magazine, has vegan everything. But they wanted one without added oils. And I also did a bunch of recipes that were refined sugar-free, so only sweetened with dates. And yeah, I love it. It's such a creative process. I lay in bed some nights and think, oh, how can I make this? And I think about the recipe. And then it's also, how do you display it beautifully? So I love the food photography side of it. I love being able to create something that somebody who eats a standard diet would love to eat.
Yes, because we start eating, and digestion starts in your saliva, and it starts even when you're thinking about food. And then when you begin preparing the food, you haven't even put a morsel in your mouth, but your digestive enzymes start to go, that is really good. I can't wait to taste that. It looks so delicious. So,
and the smell, the smell. I just fry onions and garlic, and it's sauteed either in oil or in a dry pan. Oh, sorry, no oil, water or a dry pan. And my family starts saying, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
They smell it in whatever room they're in. And I say, Mom, that smells delicious. It's just onions and garlic.
I read something, and it probably was in one of the ebooks, that got my attention about, you talk about onions. The way this person described sauteing onions is very different from how I do it. Now, we both do it with water. Most people are like, what? You saute onions with water, no oil? And again, I'll just reference my beginnings and saying, I never thought this was possible, but now this is the only way I do it. And, but anyway, so she said to put the onions in the pan, in your saute pan, and then cover them with water. So put the water in the pan so it covers the onions, and then cook them until the water has dissipated, and then do it again until the water has dissipated, and then let them go until there's no water. And by then they're going to start to really caramelize. That's different, though. That's very different. The way I usually do it is I make sure the pan is hot first. Once the pan is hot, I add the onions and I let them go for a little bit. I have several really good pans. I have a cast iron pan that it works well in. I have a really good nonstick pan that it works, a healthy nonstick pan. And I let it go until it really starts to get like crusty, dark, like it's caramelizing. And then as needed, I will put just little bits of water in it to kind of help it along. And it works perfectly. But I just was curious to know if you had ever heard of that other way of cooking onions.
I think I've probably done it that way by accident in the past. I'm going to add a little dash of water. Oops, too much. And then it starts to evaporate. I don't know. I think you get a different effect. Cooking it in water will soften the onions. I find that you probably need to cook it for quite some time for that water to evaporate and then get the caramelization. Either way works. Look, maybe we should prepare one dish one day, caramelize the onions in one way and another way, and just compare the flavor. Right. Because really, I mean, from a scientist's point of view, I think you will probably get the same flavors as long as you let it go for long enough. Mm-hmm. But I find it can't be a super hot pan because they'll stick and they'll burn too quickly. It's sort of like a medium to high. You let them sort of saute for a while. But that's one of the things when I do cooking classes and I talk about a whole food plant-based diet. And by the way, none of these recipes I'm demonstrating are going to have oil. They're like, what? Not even extra virgin olive oil?
Isn't that healthy?
Yeah. And people don't realize, I love that, you have a jar of oil, like a little bit of oil is 500 calories, and then you have a jar of vegetables and fruit and it's packed full. And that comparison of the two, people don't realize that in a day they put all the oil in the bottom of a pan to saute the onions. And then they'll make a salad and they'll put all the oil on top.
Mm-hmm.
And then, something else, bread often has oil with it. So it's a massive amount of calories. And in Australia, as the US, the majority of people basically are overweight or obese.
Oh yeah.
So let's just take that out.
The rate of obesity is just amazing. I am, really
and even in children.
Yeah,
in children
as well. Yeah. And when I learned, I think for me, one of the turning point for really making the commitment to be completely whole food plant-based was when I learned about the calorie density chart from Chef AJ. And that having that concrete, seeing the difference, for example, if you take a tablespoon of oil, which is about 130 calories, tablespoon, that's not very much, right? And you take 130 calories of a potato, which one is going to fill you up more? For sure, it's the potatoes. It's full of fiber. It's full of water. The oil, it's not going to do anything for you. And like you said, you have people do not have just a tablespoon. You're looking at probably more like 2 tablespoons per person per meal. And if you do that over the course of a day, just for argument's sake, say that 6 times 130 is what? 600, like 780. That's almost 800 calories. Well, there's not a whole lot more room depending on your size, your gender, there's not a whole lot more room for more healthy calories. So it ends up pushing out your opportunities to eat healthy food. And when I ever really finally understood that concept, that's when, for me, I began to see the power of plants. And now I'll never go back.
No. And look, if people want to eat the olive or eat the avocado or eat the walnut, great, do that. It's not necessarily low fat. For me, I keep saturated fats low. So definitely I don't have coconut products because they're so high in saturated fat. And there are some nuts that I avoid because of the saturated fat component, but it's not low fat. But yeah, people just don't understand. They can't get their head around it. And actually, I find in the plant-based community, there's always a bit of infighting about, but I can have oil. No, I can't have oil. Like, I don't know. I think for me, I just avoid it. Having said that, you can't go out to eat a plant-based meal and it doesn't have oil. So most of my meals are made at home. But if I do go out and there's a nutrient-dense salad that's full of kale and beetroot and it just looks amazing, but it has some olive oil, I'll have it because I need something,
Right. I have found a little way, not really so little. I have found an effective way around that. And, I don't want to make myself a pain in the tush with anybody, especially I don't want my lunch or dinner guests to, if I'm going out with friends, I don't want them, but they usually know me, so it's not really a big deal. But what I'll do is I'll just ask them to please bring it to me without oil. And my latest thing that I've been doing, which works really well, I have not gotten any pushback, is I ask the waitstaff to bring me some mustard, some balsamic vinegar or red wine, whichever they have, and some honey and a bowl.
Yeah.
Then at the table, while I'm waiting for my dinner to come, my salad, whatever, I make my own little dressing right there. And that works perfectly. So that's one option. And then if we're going to an Asian restaurant, I always bring my own sauce. I make a peanut sauce out of peanut butter powder and tamari or coconut aminos and a little maple syrup, a little sriracha. And, instead of having the peanut sauce that you get at restaurants, which it's always swimming. You can just see the oil swimming in it. And I don't want those calories. And I don't want the other thing too, that I think is important for people to understand is that the oils that a lot of restaurants use are vegetable oils, many of which are really not, they're full of omega-6s and you're going to distort the balance of the omega-3s that you really need. you got to have some omega-6s, but you don't want to have a lot of them. And if you're eating out a lot, you're getting trust me, you're getting, whether it's salad dressing, fried foods, doesn't matter what it is, you're getting a lot of omega-6s. So I just avoid it as much as I can altogether.
Yeah, I do something very similar. I quite often go, there's a place near here that has a whole plant-based menu, although it has steak and chips and all that sort of stuff. So I'll order the side of steamed greens, make sure they're steamed, no added oil, no butter. Maybe give me 2, pile it up on a plate. I want it as a main. I bring my own dressing, I sneakily get it out of my bag and put it on. And I have been known to bring pieces of sweet potato too, just to pop those over the top. And it's the most incredible meal. I find restaurants, Asian restaurants, are usually pretty good with oil-free. So that's the terminology I use. Could you please stir fry my vegetables without oil? And there's something about saying oil-free rather than no oil.
Mm-hmm.
No oil is a negative connotation, and they're automatically like, oh, this is weird, this is too hard. Oil-free is a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, Asian restaurants are usually okay. I haven't yet brought an Asian sauce with me, but maybe that's a good idea, because the dry wok, vegetables in a dry wok, dash of water, beautiful.
Yeah, no, it is. For me, I feel like the deprivation isn't there if I bring my own sauce. And, if everybody else is having a meal with sauce, I just bring my own, and I almost feel a little bit like,
yeah,
I'm better than you. I don't really feel like that. I never feel like that, but I just feel very self-righteous when I bring my own stuff, and I support myself, support my health. So do you have a favorite recipe, or just one of your recipes that you can speak to from one of your ebooks?
Well, being so warm here in Australia right now, I'm eating a lot of salads. So my Just Eat Plants Volume 1 has lots of salads in there. And talking about deprivation, I never feel like I'm deprived. If anything, sometimes I go to bed and think, oh, I've had a bit too much to eat today. But the next morning, feel fine again. So it's definitely a diet of abundance.
Yes.
And so I love the salads at the moment. In my sauces, dips, and dressings, I've got Vietnamese rice paper rolls. I love that, the crunch and the texture of them. And I've got an almond satay dipping sauce with that.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. Oh, I'm gonna look at that before I go to bed tonight, because that will be
okay.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I've started doing recently? I saw this somewhere on Facebook or Instagram. I take those rice paper rolls and I make the summer rolls. I dip them in water for 2 seconds, make my rolls, and then I close them up, right, like a little packet, and I air fry them.
Yeah.
And then you get this different texture, right? You're really having to kind of pull it with your teeth. And that's delicious, really delicious.
Yeah.
I want to mention that there are people watching on various social media platforms. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We would love to involve you in this conversation. And I'm pretty sure that I can see all the comments. I'm pretty sure I can. So please do. And so I want to, again, just make sure that people know that this walnut parm is Rebecca's creation, and it's in one of her books, which you get with the bundle. My sister, who I think might still be watching, I see her name popped up on Instagram. Okay. She, bless her heart, she bought the bundle on the first day, rah to support her sister. And then once she downloaded it, she has been like texting me, calling me every day, going like, oh my God, and she just wrote, yep. She just every day she says, I can't believe there is so much content in here. It's crazy. And so she is a perfect example of somebody who, and she's already whole food, plant-based, gluten-free, no oil-free, but she has really learned. So I'm going to ask her if she has found one that she loves, and I'll see if a recipe. Rebecca's Insta is, it's Rebecca, it's called Just Eat Plants. That's
_ So just _eat _plants. I couldn't get it the other way around. But Just Eat Plants. And I want to say that all of my recipes are gluten-free. I do have in the pizza book, there is a gluten-free base and a spelt pizza base. My family still eat spelt and wheat, but I avoid it. Yeah, I've got 2 autoimmune conditions. I've got MS and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. My dad is a celiac, and eating gluten has never sat well in my stomach. And I just thought, I don't want to develop another autoimmune disease. So, and it's also, I read a paper recently that MS and wheat, barley, rye, so the gluten containing grains, can exacerbate symptoms. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to address that in a second, but BT Girl 57, Rebecca's Insta name is it just underscore?
Eat underscore
plants. Okay. And yes, you are welcome. And then I want to say that my sister, who is on here, I know she won't mind me telling you this. She was the first one in our family to officially been diagnosed with celiac. Right. And 11 or so years later, I was diagnosed with celiac. Wow. And she also has Hashimoto's. Okay. So she has both celiac and Hashimoto's. I have my little cluster of autoimmune, my little party, you know, I have the celiac. I do have alopecia, which is where you lose your hair. And that is under control right now. Thank God, knock on wood, but that's autoimmune. And then I also have had, which is under control. I've had eczema. You know, and psoriasis. I actually always forget which one. It's been such a long time, but it's under control. Ever since I went gluten-free, it disappeared. I had scaly stuff all over my scalp. Gone. You know, gross. Sorry about that. But and then I also have asthma, and my asthma is under control. Asthma is autoimmune. So
it's all the body is an inflamed state, and your immune system starts attacking. I don't know, there's 80 or so different autoimmune conditions that have been diagnosed. So my mom, she had lupus and Hashimoto's. My dad has celiac and Hashimoto's. I have MS and Hashimoto's. So yeah, there's definitely a family link, which is why you can see I have shifted my children to a plant-based diet as well. Just trying to keep the inflammation as low as possible.
Right. And let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about inflammation. But first, no, Faye, my sister said, didn't I have Sjogren's? And the answer is no, I don't. And here's somebody who says she has lupus and Graves. So yeah, it's very common. There's a book that I read. Well, let me go back a little bit, just back up for a second. In 2005, that's when I was diagnosed with the alopecia. And then the dermatologist was like, nothing we can do about it. I can give you shots of cortisone in your scalp, but it might work. It might not work. It might work and it still might fall out again. So, you know, whatever you want to do. I did not want to take those massive amounts of cortisone. So I went home and started reading everything I could. And I found a book called Dangerous Grains by Dr. Ron Hogan. And in his book, he contends that all autoimmune diseases can be traced back to gluten. And that's when I called my sister Faye, who had been diagnosed already with celiac, and she lived 1,500 miles away from me. So we didn't see each other more than once a year. And it just was never something that she kind of kept it under wraps. And I called her up and I said, don't you have something weird with your gluten or something? And she said, yeah, she told me she had celiac. And I said, oh, okay, well, this book says that celiac and alopecia are 2 cousins. So P.S., I called up my internist. In 2005, gluten-free was not on anybody's lips at all, people except for doctors. And it was rare, supposedly. So I said, can I have the celiac panel test? And she said, sure. She was kind of more progressive. And P.S., I had celiac. And that's when I went gluten-free. It took a year or 2 for my hair. I can't remember at this point, but it took a while for my hair to grow back. It's not completely. There's back here. You can't see it, but I know it's here. But I am strictly gluten-free. Even without the alopecia, I'm going to be gluten-free because I have celiac. So but anyway, I want to get back to you had mentioned inflammation, and that's something that I think people really need to understand, that concept of inflammation. And inflammation is your body attacking your own tissues, your own body. And it's very prevalent. And a lot of people have, even heart disease is inflammation. Okay. Men who have problems with, with their sexual performance. If they that can be inflammation too. And you know, just because it's not just heart disease, it's a lot of other functions in the body can be affected by inflammation. And the more omega-3s you eat, the more it's going to help you tamp down that inflammation. Omega-3s, like you said, in walnuts, right? There's just Google omega-3s and you'll see that plant foods are full of omega-3s.
Yeah.
So if you have any other thoughts about that concept, the inflammation concept, I know that our viewers would love to hear it.
Yeah, so people with MS, it's really advised to increase your omega-3 intake. So some people think that doing that through fish or fish oil is the best way. Firstly, fish contains heavy metals, and even a lot of fish oils do, which are not good for anyone. Our oceans are way overfished and really stressed and polluted, so let's just avoid fish. So you can get those from the omega-3s in plants. So some people will supplement with an algal omega-3. I know that a lot of the nutrition experts are starting to recommend that now. I haven't looked into that yet, but I am interested. But yeah, getting it from flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts is great. Some people in the MS community will also have flaxseed oil because that's very high in omega-3s. I don't take that, but yeah, I know people who do. But yeah, it's so important to get the inflammation down, but also all the brightly colored fruits and vegetables definitely help with that, and getting the gut healthy, increasing that diversity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, every day for lunch, I try. It's not, probably 5 out of 7 days, I have a per Dr. Joel Fuhrman, I have a salad as big as my head.
Yes.
Just with, a wide variety of colors and different textures. And, I almost always put fruit in my salads, whether it's blueberries or apples or strawberries or kiwi. I always have something like that. And I just don't have any issue. There's so many, when you eat plants, I wake up every day and I feel like it's party time in my mouth, because there's so many things that you can eat and so many things you can prepare. And right now my refrigerator is full. This happens when I go, on the day I go food shopping, the next day, like my husband said to me, I think we have a problem in the refrigerator. I think it's a little overrun. You need to do something about that. So, this is my 4th interview and I tend to just sort of like stuff things in the refrigerator. So I do need to clean it up a little bit. So Laura Foreman, who's a realtor, said that she's gratefully in remission from lupus and Graves. Well, and she said diet matters. Yeah, it really does matter. It's absolutely
Dr. Brooke Goldner, she's a US physician. She follows, her protocol is lots of green smoothies, really high nutrient density, a lot of flax seeds, and obviously all completely plant-based. And she's put her lupus in remission as well, which is great. I think there's a lot people can do. They just don't know.
Right. And Laura, I want to make sure that Laura Foreman hears that, and you might even follow it, Laura, the Dr. Brooke Goldner, Goldr. You can find her smoothie protocol on her website on YouTube. So there's lots of options. So so before we finish, I feel like I could talk to you for a lot longer.
Yeah, no.
What I'd like to do is I do this with some of my guests. I like to do a couple things as we kind of come to the end of our time together. The first thing I want to do, before I do that, Susan says, we have a comment, I was diagnosed with MS in 2008, stopped eating the SAD way. SAD is Standard American Diet, went whole food plant-based, lost weight, lost 80 pounds, and got off all interferon injections. I mean, if there ever was not a testimonial, there's that. So thank you, Susan. Yeah. Susan's the one who really turned me on to Raw Food Romance's wraps.
Yes, I've been eating those almost daily.
You have?
Yeah, I've got a dehydrator, and I've tried the raw food wraps before, but I didn't have the balance of vegetables the psyllium husk powder is really important. I didn't have the balance right, and they'd always rip or they were too hard. I've got it perfect now after looking at Melissa's book.
Yeah. Do you use the powder or do you use the husks that you grind to powder?
I use the powder, but I've had to reduce the amount a little bit because I think it was too much. My gut just went, oh, I can't eat this much fiber in one go. So I've reduced it to about half of the recommendation.
Oh,
And the
that's
wraps are
good to
still
know.
perfect. Yeah, and I'm coping really well with it. I love it.
And but you buy powder as opposed to grinding it from
Yes.
husks. Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to do that. And also, do you have a favorite wrap you can recommend for anybody who's going to buy the bundle?
Uh, I don't remember the names because there's quite a few. Oh, the raw vegan taco shell. I've made that as well. So that was with some corn. That was incredible. But I'm doing one with beetroot at the moment. So it's really
Okay.
beautiful and red. And oh, just so delicious.
Oh, I
And
can't
the
wait to do it.
texture, the
Yeah.
texture when you bite into it, it's beautiful.
I'm gonna get my sister who's watching. I'm gonna get her to. We're gonna do it in tandem. That would be fun. Maybe she'll do an Instagram live with me. Huh, Faye? Are you still there? Will you do that with me? Susan, when you have a chance, would you please send me, just text me or on message me on Instagram, the link for the organic psyllium powder that you use, and I will get right on ordering that. So what I'd like to do is I have this box of cards. They're called self-care cards. This is going to
Yeah.
be backwards, maybe. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it won't be.
I know,
And
it is.
so I'm going to pull a card. First, I'm going to just shuffle them a little bit. I'm going to pull a card, and then the idea is that both of us will just take a moment and just off the top of our heads speak to how the card I pull relates to either what we've talked about or the bundle or whatever you want to do. So, are you game?
Yep, I can do it.
All right, good. Okay. So, the card I pulled is self-love. And on the back it says, care for your body, self-love, and self-acceptance are the ultimate acts of self-care.
Yeah. So true. It is so true. And so many of us ignore that, don't we? We just go through life, get caught up in the stress and the food, and we just ignore that. I think if I knew what I know now, 10 years ago, I may not have developed MS. And so a lot of that is about self-love. So it comes with food, it comes with having time to relax. And Broccoli Mum, who's also in the bundle, shared a story yesterday, I think, which was just, I just thought it was just so relevant because it talked about we're always chasing the smallest version of ourselves rather than the healthiest version of ourselves. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I've never heard that spoken out loud, but that is so true.
Yeah.
Always thinking about weight loss, but actually that's a byproduct of eating a whole food plant-based diet. You come to your natural weight. I lost 20 kilograms, which is what, nearly 50 pounds, eating this way. And I think it's so important to think about nourishing our bodies. That's self-love, just nourishing ourselves, thinking about the best choices at that time, just to, give as many nutrients to our body as possible. And yeah, that resonated with me when she said that. I was like, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I know. I actually wish I could. I wish maybe she will put it in her highlights because that would be the kind of thing that I'd like to read again and again and again. It's so important. To speak to that, I will say that I haven't really told my whole story. I didn't want to do that here. I wanted to really hear your story, but I will say that for a very, very long time, for the majority of my adult life, I've weighed myself daily, and I wanted to always make sure that I was a certain weight, and it was really devastating because I was never the weight I wanted to be. And following this way of eating, which has been about almost 5 years, I got to the place, I got to a really good, comfortable weight, and I still weighed myself. And then about 4 months ago, I noticed one day I woke up and I just realized that I hadn't weighed myself. I hadn't weighed myself. And I'm okay with it. I don't need to weigh myself because what I found was that by eating the weight, when I finally lost the weight and then I maintained it for a couple more years, the maintenance was piece of cake, if you will. I didn't have to weigh myself anymore because
Yeah.
I knew that eating this way, I wasn't gaining weight. I was
Yeah.
staying at that weight and it felt good. It felt comfortable. And so that self-love for me is having realized now that all those years of weighing myself every single day I was torturing myself. And I am at such a good place now. And what I tell people is throw the damn scale out. Get yourself weighed at the doctor's once a year. Throw the damn scale out and listen to your body. Just listen to your body. And do what Broccoli Mom said, which is focus on getting to the strongest, healthiest person that you can be, not the thinnest person that you can be. And with us, and I'm sure it's the same in Australia as it is in the United States, the focus on being thin, beautiful, young it's everywhere. And it's almost like if you don't put blinders on and just say, I'm not gonna go there. I'm going to focus on, imagine if we lived in a world that didn't have mirrors and we didn't have to see ourselves. We wouldn't.
I think about that. I think about that all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Bathrooms these days are just massive mirrors. You get out of the shower, you just see yourself naked, and some of us might look good. I don't know if I do, but sometimes you just don't want to see that. I would rather see a beautiful view of a garden or something like that.
Right.
Totally agree with you. I think that our focus on the scales, the only reason I keep my bathroom scales is to weigh my luggage when I have to travel. Because I don't want to be overweight with my luggage.
No, for sure.
But one of the things that frustrates me is I'm really careful to keep my luggage underweight. And then so many people who travel are overweight. And I thought, do they pay extra for their extra baggage?
You mean their extra weight that they have on their body?
Yeah, their extra weight that they're carrying. They should weigh the people as well as the baggage.
Oh my God, I never heard that's hysterical.
But we've always been on a flight and there's somebody next to us and how many times, I don't know if you do it too, you just think you see somebody who is unwell. And this is how I came up for the name of my business. I thought, I saw a woman, she was very overweight. She looked really in a lot of pain and uncomfortable. It was in a shop somewhere. And in my head, I just thought, just eat plants. Just eat plants.
Yeah.
And that will be shed and you'll feel so much better. And that's my message.
Here's what I want to say about everybody's on their own journey.
Yeah.
And wherever you are on your journey, whether you're at a comfortable weight, whether you want to lose weight, no matter where you are, I think it's important to have self-love and to love yourself. Whether you weigh yourself it's not about fat shaming. It's not about shaming at all, actually. It's about encouraging people to be healthy. That's really what it's about. It's not about losing weight. And that for me is the message that I want to leave people with is, yes, you want to stay at a good weight. You want to stay at a healthy weight, but not a weight because you want to be skinny. You want to be at a weight that you're going to be healthy. And I think that is really is the message.
And I think Susan's just posted something about eating too many of even plant-based foods can be bad. And I totally agree. I don't agree with the messaging that you can eat as much as you like on this way of eating. You can't. You can eat to satiation, and a lot of things are very satiating. But you can't just gorge yourself on nuts and avocados and high-calorie foods. You find the foods that sit right with you and you maintain your weight. And I totally agree. It's not about fat shaming. I've always been overweight. I was always 20 kilograms at least heavier than I should have been, 25 even at sometimes. And it just came off naturally. And now I'm at a healthy weight and I'm happy. And again, I don't weigh myself because that feeling of standing on the scales and not seeing the number you're expecting is just so depressing. And then there comes all that negative talk. Oh, you shouldn't eat so much. Oh, you should eat more of this. Just eat the things that nourish you and you'll be fine.
I agree. I think that I'd like to see there be less of a focus on I wish the word fat didn't even exist. Because I think that we have to all just love ourselves where we are and then make every effort we can to get healthy, stay healthy, be healthy. That I think is really the more important message.
Yes.
So, and I don't think, Suzanne, I don't think that that's what was suggested. I appreciate your saying that. There's somebody who made a comment here on Instagram, but I don't agree with that. I think that we're just all here trying to encourage people to get healthy, no matter what weight. Doesn't matter. Just get healthy and do everything you can to encourage your body to be healthy and to develop healthy habits and to encourage the people you live with, the people you love, your family, to also do the same thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was the first thing. And then the second thing I asked people, my guests, is to, if you would, I'm putting you on the spot, is to give our listeners a call to action, a call to action, something that they can take away from this live.
Just start. Like, you wish, once you've started eating this way, and I think this bundle has the potential to help so many people, just start, and don't beat yourself up. Like, if you eat something, if you go out and you've eaten something that, wasn't planned, then that's okay. Tomorrow's another day. Every meal, is another start. And I think they talk about it's what you eat every day that counts, not once or twice a year.
Right.
And yeah, just start and enjoy it, and ask for help. Like, we're here. I'm always chatting to people who've just been diagnosed with MS, and if they just want to talk and get a little bit of hope, and yeah, I'm happy to help. A lot of people are. You can just reach out to them.
Yes, I think everybody.
Busy, but
and I think I would venture to say that everybody in the bundle would be more than happy to answer any questions. I also want, yes, and Beachy Girl 57 says, that's right, tomorrow's another day. That's right. You make the best choices you can in your situation. And I actually, Beachy Girl 57, you brought up a really, really good point. In the past, in the way, way, way past, if I would eat one thing that I told myself I wasn't going to eat. Let's just say, for example, and I had Oreos in the house, and I ate one Oreo. I'd go off the deep end, and I would eat 10 Oreos. And those days are so far behind me. I don't do that anymore, and I think it's because I am nourishing myself. And I think that that's the important thing. I don't have that. I don't have those drives and those cravings anymore. And trust me when I tell you, I was a sugarholic like nobody else. I loved my Oreos. I loved I loved cookies. I loved candy. I loved chips. I loved all of that. And I also want to address something that Susan says. Well, first of all, about if you know that certain foods put weight on you, and you don't want that to happen. If you don't, let's just say, maybe some people need to gain weight. That's a whole other subject. But if you know that eating certain foods put weight on you, moderate them. That's what I think. That's what the McDougall would tell you. Moderate them. So instead of eating as many rice and beans, do things like experiment. And instead of having a full pot of rice, make a pot of rice that's half rice and half riced cauliflower.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right? Instead of eating a cup of beans, eat a half a cup. Or eat a quarter of a cup of beans and then supplement it with some more zucchini. Try to find that balance. And so my sister just said, she must have looked at your ebook, and she said, "Oh my goodness, just looked at her cookbook, your cookbook. I cannot wait to make everything," she said.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, make sure she lets me know what she thinks. I have to talk about oats before we wrap up, because I've had a look at yours as well, your oatmeal recipes, and I have it every day. So I choose a gluten-free oat. In Australia, they're called uncontaminated oats. They can't guarantee gluten-free because they grow oats in the same paddock that they grow wheat on, but they uncontaminated. And every morning I love overnight oats. So I don't eat many. So like Susan said, like there are some foods that I need to moderate because it's calorie density, and I have the ability to put on weight quite easily. So I have some oats in a bowl. I don't measure it. I just sprinkle it in. On top of that, I put either grated carrot, or this morning I had grated beetroot because I love the flavor. And then I put kale. I put kale in my oats. This is a sweet oat. This is not a savory oat. And then I just add a little bit of water to get it soaking because, that's enough for me. And then I'll add the sweet elements. So all the berries. I love berries. Because it's so hot here in South Australia, I'll add a nice cream as a dollop on top the next morning.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so good. And that's my breakfast. And I literally I wake up every morning and I'm so excited to have this bowl of overnight oats with low calorie density because I've added vegetables and the berries. Love it.
That's great. When I go to the gym, which I do like 4 or 5 times a week, and when I go to the gym, I like to get up and go to the gym before I eat. Sometimes I'll have like a date or something, or half a banana just to kind of get my motor going. But then when I'm driving home from the gym, I'm usually like, oh, I'm going to get to go home and have my oats. I'm so excited. So this is actually a good time for me to also mention again, for those who've just come on, 20 delicious Rise and Shine morning oatmeal recipes from Ellen's Healthy Kitchen. This is one of the 150 ebooks that's in the bundle, the vegan health bundle. And Rebecca has 3 ebooks. She has one called Plant-Based Pizza. She has one called Just Eat Plants. And she has one called Sauces, Dips, and Dressings. And so we just named 4 of the 150. So there's 146 other ebooks that are in there. And what you do when you order the bundle is you then will get another email with a link for you to download them all. And you have a year to do that. However, we recommend that you download them, as soon as possible and get them onto your device. The cool thing is you can go to, I have a link that is scrolling across the bottom like a ticker tape, but you can also go to my bio on Instagram, Ellen's Healthy Kitchen, and the link is in there as well. And the link is also in Rebecca's bio.
Yep.
And you can order it, or you can actually click on the link and then it'll take you to the website page and you can just peruse through the titles. You can also, there's a Q&A at the bottom that you can, if you have any questions, there's an answer about how much room it takes up on your hard drive, which I can't remember what the amount, but it wasn't that much. Yeah. Here's the thing. Today's March 7th. It's only available till 11:59 on Sunday, on March 10th. And after that, it's no longer available in this configuration. And there's $8,049 worth of material in the bundle, which is simply a collection of 150 ebooks. And you get it for $49. It's kind of a no-brainer. So I highly recommend that while you're thinking about it, when we're done here, go and order the bundle. And I think you'll be very happy. Feel free to message either one of us. And just get that done because I think you'll be very happy. I should mention too that they're all PDFs, but some of them are PDFs that then have links for you to go to either the ebook contributors website or YouTube. That there's video courses, there are full PDF books in there. There's exercise, there's a yoga course in there. It's not just recipes, it's just every single aspect of whole food plant-based living, oil-free, is in this bundle. And it's worth the price of admission, I think. So we hope that you will do that. And if you have any questions, certainly let us know. And Susan says, these bundles are amazing and so much more than just recipes. Exactly. Yeah. It's so great. Whether you're at the beginning of your journey, whether you want to dip your pinky toe in, no matter whether you're already fully whole food plant-based, oil-free like we are, gluten-free, there's so much value in this bundle. It's kind of unbelievable and amazing. So anyway, I know that we could talk for a lot longer, but I'm gonna go do the dishes, which have to be done. And I want to say thank you for being such a lovely guest.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great. It's been I feel like I've made new friends just through this. Like if that's all I get from this, I've got a new community of people. Yes. And it's fabulous.
Yes, I agree 100%. So I'm going to end the stream. I'm going to say goodbye to all our friends, hang out for a little bit. I'm going to end this stream and let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to help. Thanks so much for being here.